For those people who are online this evening, welcome. Thanks for joining us. We'll get kicking off just past 6:30. So please feel free to go and get your beverage of choice. We're talking all things money tonight, so maybe a gin might be warranted. Kidding, kidding. But yeah, feel free to stretch and get organized, and we will do the same. Okay, good night, everyone. I hope you are having a great evening. Thank you all so much for joining us this evening for an hour with Quendo, where we bring an hour conversation on different topics. And tonight we are talking all things budgeting with a chronic condition. My name is Jess Taylor. I am the CEO of Quendo, and I would also like to acknowledge the traditional lands that we are all coming from today. I am coming from the Kondamuka land and acknowledge any elders past, present, and emerging. And note that for thousands of years, our the tribes of Australia and all around came together and shared knowledge and shared information, and that's what we're really doing here at these sessions. I'd also like to acknowledge everyone with a lived experience here tonight who has got through the day and joining on an evening to learn and build some tools. The whole idea of an hour with Quendo is to build that toolbox to learn more. And tonight we are welcomed with Alyse Bradley, who has a lived experience of endometriosis, is a qualified mortgage broker with 8 years experience in financial management, but is also on our board as our QENDO Treasurer. And when we see the cost of endometriosis, $7 billion economic cost for Australia every year, with an average of, particularly for endo, $30,000 costs to the individual. And I know for some people that's way more, and others not quite there yet, or not quite there at all. It's quite diverse. And at the end of the day, in a living crisis that we are in, trying to manage a chronic condition, we don't always have financial literacy. It's certainly not embedded in our curriculum. And so we're hearing again and again, how do we actually manage with a chronic condition? How do we budget? What do we do? And so Alyse has so kindly offered to talk through this with us tonight. Alyse, you have a lived experience. You know what it's like. Your story is extensive and it's not over yet. But you also have that incredible experience in the finance world. And so thank you for joining us. And we're really excited to learn from you this evening. For those who have questions throughout the session, please pop them in the Q&A in the chat, and I will be monitoring the chat and be popping in some questions to Alyse as we go throughout the night. If we can't get to them, We'll take them offline and we will do our very best to review them and answer them if we can, and also pop them into a blog or some other method or medium. There is closed captions on here tonight, so if anyone does have some difficulties, that is there for you to utilise. And if you do want to also comment or share anything in the chat as well, we welcome you to. Like I said, you can very much contribute in those ways. This webinar tonight is being recorded so that we can add this to our library so other people can also learn and listen for time to come. And with that all being said, I will hand it over to you, Alyse. Thank you all for being here. And we're so excited to hear and learn from your brain of experience. Thank you so much.
No, thank you, Jess, for the introduction. Yeah, it's definitely a long journey, but definitely the help with QENDO has made some really extensive changes in my world anyway. But thank you everyone for coming. I know it can make a really, really long day. I always have my heat packs next to me, so if you need yours, feel free to grab it. Tonight, I wanted to try and keep it as simple as possible. Numbers can be a little bit daunting for a lot of people. Some it's a strong skill suit like mine, but I know others, they're better with numbers, better than words with numbers, and my family are very much like that, so I understand. But if you've got any questions along the way, or I say something that you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not sure what she meant or what you meant, feel free to pop it into the chat and I can explain further, but I'll try and keep it simple. I just wanted to firstly, as Jess mentioned, I am a qualified mortgage broker. So I work with numbers every day, lots of different lenders, lots of spreadsheets, and, handling people's finances. So plenty of experience, but as a quick disclaimer, I'm not a financial advisor. Just to point out that, anything I do mention, information can be found publicly. It's all an open book, but the advice here is just around mainly just tools, and maybe something or one thing that you can take away that might just help or shift. And yeah, I hope so. I hope so anyway, but we'll get through what we can tonight. Just very quickly, a little bit more about me and my journey. Again, so grateful for QENDO. For example, I was diagnosed just realized how much I looked like my photo tonight. I very much, I got diagnosed over 10 years ago. I was mid 20s and no one knew what endometriosis was. We hear that all the time. So going through my early teens through 20s and having a lot of, issues with the body and the brain, and come the diagnosis, it went, oh my gosh, there is something there. Makes me feel so much better and validated that I wasn't, going a little bit crazy. But through that, I've been in finance for a long time as well, and managing not only the costs, which we'll go through tonight, but managing, my body as well through that has been really, really tough. So if you're having your days off not well, like take those days. I know it's tricky when you don't get paid sometimes, but you need to rest, right? Like me. So work, not too much play. But then getting into my role now, I absolutely love it. And I really enjoy dealing with a lot of public and seeing lots of different variances of what everyone does in their world. So QENDO, I came on board a few years ago. I was very lucky to know a few of the women on the board. I did not know before, and then got the opportunity, and now working alongside, I'm sure you've all heard of Ash Webb. I work closely with her. She was the treasurer, and now I've jumped on board as well. And Jess and I and Ash particularly have been dealing with budgets and, all the fun accounting stuff. It's been really quite, I love it secretly, but that's what I'm doing now. So hopefully tonight, I'll try not to use too much finance language. Keep it simple, like I said. But that's a little bit about me. But what I wanted to do is just, if you can on your Zoom, is I want to know who's in my audience. Get to know you for a minute. I sort of put it down to 3. I mean, there's so many variances, but if you've got a health condition yourself, put a love heart. If you don't, that's okay. You might know someone who does. And if not, and you're just here because, you love supporting, you know, you could pop a smiley face. I just wanted to see how, if people can, hopefully, you know, who I've got here. It'd be really, really cool to understand.
You may not be able to see the questions or the chat come through, but we have some hearts
Oh,
so
awesome.
far, mostly hearts.
What? Just have to get some friends and some family on board next time and get some more smileys.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's really cool. Yeah, it's not easy. We know we've all got our own, you know, we've all got our own path and our own journey. But again, I appreciate you jumping on board and spending that hour with me in the evening. Then you can hop off to bed after a hot shower. So, to get into it, I would love to know, and Jess will help me with your answers, but I wanted to know what your thoughts were when you hear the word budget. Some people are like, others are like, yes, savings goals, you know. So I would love
Mm.
to know, maybe in a couple of words, what comes to mind. Budget to me, it's not taboo. It's not bad. It's great. It's super useful. It's practical. And that gives you a chance to keep control of things, keep on top of things, because as we know, medical costs, which I would probably say is one of my biggest costs, general every day, every week, every month. So this, I'm inviting you, and I'm really excited to share some of the little tips that I've got that I've been doing that have helped so much.
So
So,
I'll just say we do have a couple of stars before we kick off. So
oh,
that's really
cool.
awesome.
That
Yeah.
is, thank
Um,
you also for coming.
yeah. And yeah, lots of hearts. And we've got some people saying it means organizing their mind, organizing their thoughts.
100%.
Yeah. Knowing where things are at and where they're not at. And someone
Tracking.
said
Yeah.
stress.
Yes, we'll try and do some things to eliminate some of it. Excellent. No,
For
that's really
me,
good. Sorry, Jess.
for, for me, it's buckets. I love to
It's
know. I love buckets because you have them all in their, categories and you can clearly see. And I think if you're a visual person, that
mhm.
can be so helpful, can't it?
Oh, absolutely. Keeping those costs, like Jess calls them buckets, but those categories, or, you know, a way to group things together. And like a few have said, tracking is really important, but that allows you as well to plan a bit for the future, right? Because as we know, if we've got reoccurring medical costs or your general everyday bills, which I'll go through soon, that is going to really help. And that way you can prepare sometimes for those really big expenses, which can always jump up at the most inappropriate times. But I'll try and keep it simple. Like I said, budgeting should have moved that slide before. It doesn't take, you know, a lot of fancy skills. I know I've got a lot of financial backgrounds, but tonight we'll just keep it simple. And I love that. Money in, money out. How's that sound? Money coming in that you get paid, money going out to all your expenses. Simple, simple, simple. Always keep reminding yourself that. Cool. So before I get into the budget stuff and the numbers, so I don't lose you too early on, I wanted to just sort of touch on, you know, it's like a financial health check. Where are you at? You know, how well are you managing your position? So like I said, money in, money out, keeping it simple, what's coming in, what's coming out, having a look at those different buckets or different expense categories, having a look at things like your debts and if you need to, you know, adjust things, or we could get to that soon. I'm a big one of checking in with myself or checking in with my budget, probably every time I get paid. For me, it's fortnightly. So have a think of, because some will be weekly, some will be fortnightly, you know, and some will be monthly. If you're not working and maybe you're on benefits, that's okay. You do get something fortnightly as well. I know Centrelink's usually fortnightly, so that's hopefully a bit helpful. But I check in quite regularly. And as I said before, it's about getting prepared for some big expenses as well. And maybe with some practice, you can then be excited to maybe save a little bit, We would love for that, right? Um, and self-control. That's another thing that I swear some months I'm good and some months I'm not so good. And that's okay as well. You know, we all need to live. But staying consistent with any overspending, which we can have a bit of that, and that comes down to evaluating. Living within your means. One big thing I had to learn when I was young, these medical costs really, really added up, and I was not expecting that. My body went through a tough time, and I think we all go down that road, especially when no one knows what it is, can't diagnose it still properly, and you're going to different specialists. You know, you're getting 1,000 blood tests, you're trying all these different scans, you're seeing someone more from a naturopathic side of it rather than, you know, Western medicine. So it makes it tricky. But living within your means and going, right, this is my priority, this is what's important, that's where, you know, I feel like we should start. But I was going to say, if you do have a chance, I'll give you a second if you've got any questions. If you want to if you're on your laptops or on your phone, maybe bring up some notes, because I'm going to get you to do a bit of an exercise very shortly, which will be, I promise it's beneficial, just lots of numbers. But while you do that, just very briefly, like living within your means, you know, what does that mean to you? To me, it's not just about more money. You know, we all want more money. We all want to win the lotto. That would be amazing. But it's, as someone mentioned earlier, actually, it's about having control over your finances, knowing where you're at, being prepared, setting aside funds where we can. So with me, you know, as an example, like I said, I get paid fortnightly. So I try and set aside out of my fortnight. Obviously, we've got my general bills. You'll have your general bills, the stuff that's regular. And I do put stuff aside that I know is like a bit of a savings kitty, but a lot of my medical costs because of all the different things that I get done. That way, I can stop stressing. I still stress a little bit. We all want more money, but it's definitely a good start. And keeping motivated without getting lost in all the bits of stress and the numbers and the budgets and being so focused. I've only learnt this recently, and I've had a big mind shift change since this, and that's why I was really excited to share this next bit, which is about celebrating your little successes. So we all get bogged down. We work if we're working, you know, we've got a lot on every day. You know, adding in a budget or checking on that can be, you know, a bit more, but I'm now celebrating my little, like when I put away a certain amount, if that's in the month or every couple of months, I'm celebrating that and going, oh, awesome, I'm able to do it. But again, I've had a budget. I've had an Excel spreadsheet. You're all going to laugh because I'm a bit of a numbers nerd. I have an Excel spreadsheet that I started when I was, I think, 16 or 14. I was young when Excel first came out. It's got like 15,000 lines, but that Excel spreadsheet, Jess is shaking her head because she loves spreadsheets as well. But being so organized, you go, Jess.
Can I just say we have a beautiful group of our volunteers on the chat here on the online, which is
Excellent.
great to see. Thank you for coming. And we often say to people when we're interviewing and volunteering, if you don't like spreadsheet, that's okay. We've got people who love them, and here they are, team. This is someone. We haven't made them up as a fictional person. They're real
No, we do
people.
exist. It's not something that I'm, you know, we're going to shout out to the world, but, you know, I love it. Obviously, I'm very passionate about it. And that's why I'm really excited to share with you some stuff tonight. But yeah, celebrating, feeling good about what you're doing, because, you know, medical appointments, it's constant. The cost of living at the moment is absolutely wild. Rents and mortgages, hopefully we shall see some relief coming, but we all don't have a crystal ball. But yeah, having little rewards as well. I know it's going to sound a bit dorky, but one of my rewards when I feel like I've put some aside is usually my stuff is on health. I will go and get a massage, or I will go and get like a reflexology foot massage, like if you can do that. Little things like that, that it's good for the body and the brain. It's not like I'm going out spending it, on something silly. But hey, if you like clothes and you like shoes and it makes you feel good, go for it. But at least you're going, hey, I've been so good this month. I'm going to treat myself with something. And that's why I said never feel bad. So getting through all of that and giving you guys an idea of where I'm coming from and why. I mean, we all love money realistically, but I've worked out over the years to have a good relationship with it. um, Again, if you're not a numbers person, that's fine. But I would love to know what it means to you to have a good relationship with money. Just a couple of words. Is it how it makes you feel? Is it knowing that you can buy stuff, or, knowing that you can spend it on your health if you're not tracking it? Just thought I'd see what you guys think. Don't all jump in at once.
Mhm. I think it takes a little moment for people's comments to come through.
Of course.
Um, what I've heard a lot of as people are typing, it gives them access, right? It can help them open a door, um, if they're blocked by a particular diagnosis or a type of treatment, and that can give you access to the next step, which then reinforces all of the other things. Hey, that's your ecosystem.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Tracking and setting aside and being able to have goals, and work with other, as Jess just said, other means and other ways that you haven't been able to before, which I have done, which is great. I was seeing a lovely pain specialist for a while, and that's something I've never been able to do before, but I was able to work that into my budget, and that was really helpful.
yeah. Someone said choices, which goes to the point of what you've just
Choices,
said. It
yeah.
gives choices.
I
Feeling
wish I could do it all,
accomplished.
but
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, someone said feeling accomplished. Another has said less stress, anxiety, if a good relationship with money.
good. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it'll be the same for a lot of people. We stress enough about other things, particularly our health, and we are our body as well. So the more we stress, the more our body is responding to that. So don't forget that your brain does want to look after you. So you've got to do the right things, and hopefully with this money side of it, we should try and alleviate some stress anyway. Um, Excellent, excellent. So, to start off into the budgeting side of it, I just wanted to touch on, how or maybe what you're doing, but simple things that I have done to help with like the actual medical costs. One thing is be aware. I I will always call ahead wherever I'm going for whatever appointment it is. I will call ahead and I will ask, and I will then work out. In my second point is plan out your appointments. Obviously, if it's an emergency or if it's something that you really need to do, like yesterday, or straight away, don't hold back. But if you're able to move and spread appointments out in line with perhaps how you get paid, oh, I just got paid, but I won't be able to do it this week, but I'll book in for the week after, just to that way, this week you can put aside maybe half the cost or something like that. That seems to really, really help me. So it might help you too. I do keep records sometimes, if I'm doing the regular appointments of the costs, particularly with prescriptions. Great news that Jess, and the team have been doing is there is a bit more going on the PBS, which is amazing. So that's definitely going to help. Again, I wish we could push more. I really do. We'll work on that. But yeah, keeping an idea and keeping a bit of a record of what those look like. If you're going through publicly, I have always been public. That was a choice of mine, just with the particular specialist that I had. That the costs are the costs, I guess, but different GPs do charge slightly different rates, little things like that. If you find your GP's costs have gone up ridiculously, don't hesitate to find out other GPs in your area. That's one thing I definitely did. But private health, everyone knows private health is a little bit wild in cost. Everyone's in their own position, family, planning for a family, single, everyone fits into different boxes. But just like with most other costs in your world, you can usually call around, make sure you're not paying for things that you don't need or isn't really suited to you, because there's a lot in those private health and it can get a bit of a boring read on a lot of their ins and outs that they've got. But if you've got anything else, I'll keep going. But if there's anything that you might do that you'd love to share with everybody that's here tonight, that you're like, oh, I do something similar, or I do that, feel free to pop that in. Sharing is caring. Absolutely. Touching on those medical costs, Jess, thank you so much for dropping in a few of these tonight. It's been a very interesting chat, since we've deep dived over the years in terms of Medicare rebates, the difference between, women and their, copious amounts of appointments, ultrasounds, tests, etc. And usually longer times at the GP versus a lot of the costs that men are paying. I mean, a lot of men don't really go to the GP as much as they probably should. But in terms of vasectomy and other procedures, it's been really, really interesting. A lot of this information is all on, of course, government websites. Medicare. You can search up different PBS items, numbers, etc. I think what Jess and I just spoke about before, when it comes down to like bone scans, of course, women, estrogen, as we get older, bone density decreases. I'm not a medical professional, just wanted to disclaimer that, but that's generally what happens. But it is very interesting that, women are like, yep, you need to get on it. There's stipulations around it. Whereas men, it's like, well, you can do it whenever. And that, of course, is cost. Was there anything you'd like to add with that, Jess, or anything, because you're more
I think that
across?
we're just trying to increase the rebates, and I think these little snippets was shared around because there was a bias around medical rebates costing them more, and it's very gendered language. It was from articles and from the data from the the federal government, but also people who do identify as LGBTIQA plus, and they are trying to access a public ultrasound. They found that to be incredibly difficult, and often people are not getting the Medicare rebates that they need because they're faced with additional challenges. I think they're really starking in terms of just the fact that a male is eligible at any stage, at any age, to have a bone scan. For just one example, in comparison to someone who does identify as a woman, needing more than 6 months of suspected issues, but and be before if they are before the age of 45. We know so many young people who are taking medication and they need to have their bones, particularly their bones, tested early. And a lot of people, we saw that most recently, people with endometriosis will undergo menopause earlier or be trying menopause medication. And so that can have a direct impact on your bone health. If we don't have appropriate, good bone health before we go through menopause, we don't really have a great outcome after we've gone through that process. So, yes, this is on the agenda, but we will keep pushing for more rebates whilst also trying to support our workforce, because they are also, yes, trying to run a business. So we don't want to, we want to keep them in the workforce because we need health professionals to go and see, but we do need them to be more equitable. And the bias around these rebates is so significant, and I think has helped us push a lot more for those more PBS and MBS item numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, these figures from 2024, I think you said as well. So hopefully we'll get some more traction and some more movement. Hey, Jess, yeah, working wonders behind the
We will.
scenes.
We're trying. And before, when you were mentioning what other people do, I just would like to add that if you are going down the path of a new treatment plan, it can be quite useful to ask them, how many sessions or appointments do you think I should need? And what does that look like? Or at what point do we stop doing this treatment? And so that can help you plan in terms of your schedule availability, but what you're investing into that. And you are also employing your healthcare team. So you are employing and paying them, right, in those sessions. So you have control over where you go to if you don't like them, or if you're not sure about their treatment plan or their timeline. Be honest with that health professional and say, I can't afford this. What can we do?
Yep. Don't hesitate to say that. Absolutely. Like if you are feeling stuck and you feel like you really need it, they will work with you. Yeah, the medical professionals I know I've had in my world, and there's been plenty of them and a lot of them, at times where I had to say that, absolutely. And they are wanting to work with you anyway. So yeah, got to look after number one. Cool. Well, this is where the fun really starts. This is the numbers stuff. So hopefully I haven't lost you guys just yet. But yes, guys and ladies, I appreciate you being on. So if you do have a notepad, whether you're old school like me with pen and paper, or you're using ChatGPT, if you're really young, which is amazing. I've only got on board quite recently. But what we'll do is we'll have a look, just keeping it again simple of what. So obviously this is not shared. No one can see this but you. But again, never compare. Just to see what your income versus your expenses looks like. I got really excited when I learned Canva very recently, and I did these little tables up and I worked out how to pick the colors. I was very proud. So, as I mentioned earlier, if you want to just, you could divide your paper into or a couple of different columns. But the first thing is money in. So when you look at your income, you're getting paid what's called net. So that's your income minus tax, as the ATO likes to take from all. That gives you your net, and that's what you're paid into your bank account. That's the money that you're using to pay for everything you need. So work out, you'll know if you're paid weekly, fortnightly, or monthly. And as I said, if you're not working, that's absolutely okay. And if you are on benefits, fortnightly. Or if you're not working or on benefits and you have a lovely partner that is assisting, great. Maybe ask him in the next room. But that's all we'll need to do for income. Nice and easy. So the money out. So this is the really interesting part that you will need to have a think about. What is it that you sort of spend in these categories, in line with your pay. So if you're getting paid weekly and you're spending like $50 to $100, keep everything weekly. With things like mortgage, rent, credit cards, cheeky, those their BNPL is buy now, pay laters, they can definitely creep up. Car loans, or any other liabilities that you've got, put that down if you know the repayment, because you know that if that's coming out regularly, pop that in there. Buy now, pay laters. I love them and I hate them at the same time. That's my personal opinion. But they can creep up on you, if you're constantly doing it. And then, next fortnight, it's like, oh my gosh, there's too many things on there. So have a think about those. One quick tip is if you have your internet banking, most banks have an app. Most apps will have that you're able to have a breakdown or like a bills. I know I'm with CBA personally, and I've got other accounts with Macquarie, and they actually you can create a budget in the app. How much do I want to spend on groceries per week, or et cetera, et cetera. And that really helps you keep track. But if you don't have anything like that, might have to go a little bit manual. Again, an Excel spreadsheet could be your best friend if you know how to work it out. If not, I was playing around with this last night, is popping it into ChatGPT. Hey, I spend this, and what does that look like? How much am I spending? What have I got left over? Very, very simply done compared to my 15-year ago, 20-year ago plus Excel sheet that I kept going for a long time. So have a think about that. Through these living expenses, while you're going through like groceries, any food you buy, tip and trick. I'm going to do this all through this, by the way, so keep your ears peeled. If you have access to Coles, Woolworths, Aldi, it really does pay to keep an eye on specials. I have always, I've got, the Woolies and the Coles emails that come through that go, oh, the products that you normally buy, they're on special, which is great. There will be one week that Woolies will do some products and then I'll know, oh, I'm going to need X, Y, Z. And generally the week or two after Woolies will do that. So I won't buy the items that I know are likely to, you'll see the patterns anyway. They usually come on specials every month, but that really helps to do something like that. You can save. I get really excited as we want to save money. When I see my docket, which is now, I've gone online, so it's anyway, the printed docket I used to get, and you can see how much you've saved. And I will buy most of my stuff on special. And if I see it's on special for half price, I'll buy two because I know I'm going to probably need it later. That's a good way of keeping your groceries organized, saving a little bit. And again, if anyone on on tonight has any little tips or tricks for each category, again, sharing is caring. Medical health.
Alyse,
Yes, Jess.
Alyse, someone's just said that there's an app called Weekly for entering in your income, outcome, and then you can give it any goals you have financial year ahead, and it'll give you a weekly budget to help you keep on track too, and can be super flexible with over underspending.
And it's a free app,
Perfect.
I'm
I
assuming.
don't know
What's it
if you,
called? Weekly?
whoever, Weekly, let us know if it's free.
Yeah. There are apps out there. I do know some of them, you'll have to pay some kind of subscription or, you'll only get certain functionality. But if it's a free app and it does what you need it to do, amazing. Yes, feel free to share. It's for
It
a
is completely free. That's
good.
amazing.
I'm gonna have to look at that myself. Fantastic. So that'll help you again, organize what you need to and give you an idea of what you can and cannot do. Medical and health, we've obviously touched on a lot. Keeping organized, ringing ahead, setting aside what you need to each week, fortnight, monthly. That will really, really help. Phone and media. I have a giggle. When I look at a lot of people's finances, I go through their bank statements and the amount of media, you've got your Facebook, sorry, not your Facebook, you've got Stan, you've got Netflix, on any of those apps, there are so many out there. If you're finding that you are not really using them, but you're paying a subscription, it might be an extra $20 a month that you save because a lot of people have 10 of them and they really only use Netflix or Stan or Binge or Disney or whatever. I find that that's probably a good place to start. Telephone stuff, call ahead, but figure out if you're paying, call ahead, sorry, call up to compare pretty I won't get into the phone companies, but they're pretty competitive these days. So, same with your home internet, really competitive. If you've got the time, shop around. It can absolutely save. If not, tell them that you're leaving anyway, and they might actually try and keep you and discount stuff. Transport, that's like your fuel, if you do drive, fuel, registration. What's going to be a bit tricky is things like registration is usually 6 monthly or yearly. Simple calculation, whatever it is on that 6 month or that annual, divide it by 52 if you get paid weekly, or 26 if you get paid fortnightly, and 12 obviously if you get paid monthly. That'll give you an idea instead of those big lump sum costs coming up, and we know they're coming. I try and set aside, I know I need $54 a week or whatever it is. That will really, really help. Same with your ride shares. I always flick between Didi and Uber, see who's the cheapest.
And can
Yeah,
I just make a comment
yeah.
on the rideshare apps? Just today learnt that if you have a business account on Uber, particularly Uber, it
Yeah.
charges you more. So having said, if you
Mm.
are working with a company or there is a business that you are charging your Uber to, we're a non-profit, right? And we do need to use Uber, but didn't know that they up the prices if you're under a business
I
account.
did not know that either.
So, no, I just found that out today. So just watching if you do have different profiles in those apps and you're coming from a business or from an account, they might be charging you differently as well. So it pays to flip over and check.
Always check. One minute they say you're charging you this, and then they don't do that. So seems to be fairly. But thank you, Jess, for sharing. Yeah, that's good to know. Um, Transport, yeah, public transport. If anyone's using public transport, they know that everything's 50 cents still, which is awesome. So if you can use it, do. I know it gets a bit tricky though with, if you're in pain and things, you just want to drive. You want to be in your car with your music and your heat pack on. That's so fair. I do the same thing. Entertainment. So this is, if you do get the chance to go out, maybe you go for a meal, you get some takeaway, pizza, whatever. That's sort of entertainment stuff. Or if you like to do a bit of a trip each year, setting aside a little bit for that, any of those sort of entertainment fun things. If you go to gym, if you do go to anything that's like a gym, I know that I can't do gym anymore, but I've got Pilates. And that is one thing that, I mean, you can categorize that in health, but that's one thing that is a regular expense for me that I work into my budget. Personal care, that's just stuff like clothes, shoes, makeup, anything that sticks to your body basically, is your personal care items. Again, pays to shop around. One thing I do, if you are buying online and you do have the funds for it, leave it in your cart for a couple of days. I'm sure other people know this. Leave it in your cart and they'll always send you like, oh, we noticed there's something in your cart, so here's an extra 10% or here's free shipping. So that also very much helps. The next category, we're almost there. The next category is insurances. If you're living at home, if you're renting, if you don't have contents insurance, that's fine, but you'll probably have insurance. You might have insurance for other things. That could be private health as well if you do have private health. That's a reoccurring cost. And then you've got, if you're owning a home, you will have some kind of home and contents insurance with that. So that sort of falls in that category or bucket, as Jess loves. And then education, or sort of, if you're doing online study, or you've got kids, perhaps, if you do have children, think about that. You might have some public school costs, might be like $20 a month. Anything to do with education, really. That's pretty much the most of it. Don't feel like you need to, overinflate, and really do think about, not undercutting it either, because it will catch up with you. Numbers don't lie. That's why I love them so much. It's very black and white. So that's sort of the everyday stuff. If there's anything outside of that, chuck an extra category in there that could be like other. Um, other random bits and pieces you might have if it's a reoccurring expense, not like, oh, I donated once, 6 months ago. I wouldn't call that as much as we want to donate, and sure, if you could do that for QENDO regularly, that would be great. But otherwise, it's not something that's an ongoing, pay cycle type expense. Now, the biggest thing that does look very scary is just going into that middle table is mortgage or rent. Fortunately, if you are living with parents or you're living with friends and you don't really have the standard rent or mortgage, you're very lucky. Most people, however, will have a mortgage or rent. Rent, I actually don't mind. Don't ever compare yourself if you're like, oh my God, I'm still renting. Mortgages are very expensive as well, and usually there's a lot of debt there. Rent gives you a bit of flexibility and freedom, and you can still, if you're on top of your finances after 6 to 12 months' time, and you might even think about going that next step of investing somehow, that gives you a bit of leeway as well. But that's other stuff we can get to another time. Mortgages. I've got two really, really, really good tips and tricks. If you do have a mortgage, because this is what I do every day. If you're on monthly repayments, most lenders will want you to do monthly. The reason is your interest on that giant loan is charged daily. So the longer you leave the repayment, the longer they have interest charged on that total big amount. So simple that can almost, and I've proven it plenty of times, and you can go into online calculators, but if you were to change it to fortnightly or weekly, it gives you almost the same. It will halve your mortgage because you're halving the interest that's being paid. So Jess is like, oh, okay, I can apply that. Honestly, when I was doing like a little bit of, I'm not a financial planner, but I was doing, very similar to financial planning last year, home loans, looking at how we can save cost and money. What the banks don't want people to know is, just changing your repayments. Massive game changer. The other thing is if you do have like offset or redraw, that stuff will always save you interest. Lots of products out there. Some lenders have really big fees, some don't. Again, not that I'm spruiking myself, but again, it helps to shop around, and the rates have dropped. I'm hoping next what's today? Yeah, next Tuesday, I think it is, the RBA is meeting again. So fingers crossed we get another reprieve if you're a homeowner. I'm going to pause there because I've been talking a lot. How's everyone feeling about those numbers? I hope they're okay. Does it look scary? It's okay if it looks scary. The money in, so all I want you to do now is looking at that money in and that money out. Where does that sit? Where does that sit you? Are you almost on par and there's not too much wriggle room? Have you got quite a bit there that you've got that you're able to put away, maybe in savings or something? Or are you in a deficit and we need to, have a bit of a rejig of some numbers? So before I get to that next screen, because I've gone through some tips and tricks, that will give you a really good starting point anyway of where you're at. If this is your regular spending, that is at least a bit of a basis for you to start, and then start keeping track and then start planning, which is really exciting.
Alyse, can I ask you a question?
Of
So
course.
if people have expenses, if we go back to the last one, so people have, weekly, I'm sure, grocery expenses, but then entertainment might be monthly. So how are they calculating that? Like it's sometimes in their expense, how do they plan that? How do they, yeah.
Awesome. Great question, Jess, because it is on my next slide, but that's okay. Um, Very easily, so, without being super technical, the banks or lenders and how people in this industry will look at expenses like that when it's all different is whatever it is, if it's weekly, times it by 52 in the year, and then divide it by whatever you need it to be. Or if it's something like fortnightly, but you get paid weekly, I mean, you can just go ahead and halve it. But we would go 26 divided by, because the months aren't even. That's what really throws people. We've got February with less days. We've got other months with 31 days instead of 30. So it's not equally aligned. I mean, my OCD goes, why aren't all the months exactly the same? That would really help with the moon and everything, but that's how you can work it out. But if you're paid, say, monthly, you can, sorry, I'm cracking you up there, Jess. If you are paid monthly, and you've got expenses, like I said, like your registration, that's 6 monthly, or your, what else? Like some insurances are annual, but you can as well adjust those repayments, to, match your pay. Did that make sense? I'll go to the next slide. Cool. So that's a good starting place anyway. So as mentioned, we want to review each category. We want to go, right, does this look sort of normal? Am I spending way too much? Did I overestimate? Or am I not spending enough? Maybe your health and well-being, you're not spending enough. No, I think we're all spending way too much. But that will, help set a bit of a boundary for yourself. All right, cool. No more clothes for at least 6 months, which I did to myself. I usually have weird New Year's resolutions. One of them was like no shoes for a year because I love shoes. And I did. I bought no shoes for a whole year. I don't know how I did it. Little things like that, little goals, which saved quite a bit of money actually. Essentials. Clothes are essentials, but if you've got a lot of clothes, you don't really need to keep buying more. But prioritize the essentials. There is a rule, a very, very common sort of rule that is around in the budgeting and finance world, or just, the everyday is what's called like a 50-30-20 rule. 50% to your needs, like of your pay, should really be going towards that. 30% can be used for the wants. That's how I categorize my budget is what do I need? And then what do I want? And then you work towards the wants. And then if you can, 20% or so on savings or reducing debt if you've got debt. Debt is not pretty. If you've got credit cards and things like that, look, everyone's got credit cards. You could see the most richest person, but they'll have like home loans and debts and credit cards, and it's quite interesting. So don't ever feel like you're like, oh my God, I've got a credit card and my friends don't. Honestly, it's totally fine as long as you can manage it, as long as you can keep on top of it. It's not taboo either. But definitely keep that in your plan to try and pay down debt. Like if you're saving, here's an example. If you're trying to put away, $100 a week, but that savings account only has like a savings or like percent of maybe 5%, but you've got a credit card that has like a, $5,000 limit and you're trying to pay that off, that credit card interest rate is probably going to be at least 3 times your savings rate. So little things like that, where your credit card it will cost you more. It looks good to save. If you can do both, great. But just as no one really thinks of it that way. You also pay tax on savings. If you get paid interest, you get paid tax on that as well. So what you think you're really putting in and you're getting paid on, sometimes it doesn't work out too much. But if you've got a home loan, chuck it in there. That'll help. Some expenses, so we discussed that, insurance, regos, things like that, rates, if you own a home. So annual basis and divide it by your cycle is one of the easiest ways to overcome that, so it's not too confusing. Limit leakage and then changing spending habits. I've talked about this and touched on it before. Monitoring small stuff. If you're spending, $10 a day on coffee or $5 4 days a week, it's about $1,000 a year. It still adds up. It's still something. So have a think about all those little things that maybe you do get maybe too regularly that you could perhaps go without for a little while to see how you go. Challenge yourself. Me, I love chai lattes. Sometimes I'm just like, right, no chais, for a week, or no chais for a month, because it's not like I need it. It's a want. For those coffee lovers, though, I understand I'm not a coffee person, but I'm sure that feels like it's a need most days. So that's, of course, your world, no judgment. And then that trimming it, yeah, what you can really save on. So that lovely person that said weekly, like a budgeting template is also going to be really handy, super handy. That app, or if you've got some of the mainstream lender apps, they will have little budget things like tools in there. Or you're old school and maybe you're just using a pen and paper for now, that's fine too. But using a template and being consistent with that template, like I said, checking in, how's it looking, what have I got, etc. Use MS Excel. God bless me, I'm so funny sometimes. Takes me back to a long time ago. Excellent. So, I'll just pause there for a second. I'll see if there's been any comments or any other questions that might have popped up. Just to
Yeah,
see.
perfect timing. Question. I can set
Oh,
up the budget, info on income expenses, but need help with the next step, managing the cash and tracking the expenses against the budget estimates.
good one. So to sort of answer that question, when you've got, let me go back to, oh, here. Can you repeat that, Jess? Because I want to make sure that I capture
Yes. So the
all the things.
question is, I can set up the budget, info on income and expenses, but
Yep.
need help with the next step, managing the cash and tracking the expenses against the budget estimate.
Cool. So get a little bit nerdy. This is one of my jobs as treasurer, doing these budgets. There's a lot more cash flowing, and a lot more higher expenses. It's all relevant, right? So that next step, when you've got this, which I was going to touch on in a sec anyway, but thank you for the question. It's a matter of going, right, what have I got and what have I got left over? If you've got left over, you can plan out, let's just use weekly as an example. Not too many places pay weekly these days. But if you know that you're having a health specialist appointment, just to use as an example, and that's a fairly like a fortnightly or monthly thing, it's a matter of looking at that category going, okay, I'm going to need, $100 for that. But then in your budget, putting away, $50 for that week. And if it's a very regular thing, you can put that aside. If you have the opportunity to start saving, that's when we can go into starting to set some more goals or different goals that you've got. But at least that will help you execute and staying on top of, those future expenses. I guess there's not so much of you going, hey, this is going to cost me $60, and then you get to the appointment and it costs you 50. I mean, you've sort of over budgeted. But if you've called ahead and said, hey, I've got an appointment, I just wanted to confirm the cost, it's in 3 weeks, then you can work out that. So does that answer your question a little
If
bit?
Martina, if you want to just let us know if that helped. And I wonder, is it sitting down, printing out your bank statement, or going through your app and looking at the expenses and then coming back and allocating, which can be really manual. But it is, if someone's just starting in that, do you think that would be helpful?
Yeah, absolutely. Most of the apps these days, you'll be able to, like, you can go into your transactions, you can search you can search phone, or you can search prescriptions. You can search anything, and you can say over a month, or again, if you paid fortnightly, you can do it over most things happen monthly. Repayments on things do generally happen monthly. So I work from a monthly headspace, even though I'm paid fortnightly. So that might help as well. And then, yeah, absolutely review your stuff, but then start planning, and you can have a budget for the next week. You can have a budget for the next week. Um, there will be costs that we know, like I said, to prepare for, those extra items. If you've got an idea, like I said, if it's mostly appointments, you can only plan as much as you can plan. Again, I wish we all had a crystal ball. And then you might go to another specialist and they'll be like, oh, actually, we might get you to do this now. And you're like, where did that come from? But please no, yeah, I hope that helps. That's sort of the next step of the execution, and trying to stick to it, setting that right. I generally spend about $80, $90 on groceries on average. You could look at an on average perspective. Some weeks might be 120, other weeks might be 60, but on average, that will also help keep sticking to a budget. And like I said, you can usually find peaks and troughs of, um, you know, the different expense patterns anyway. I'm getting a bit
So
nerdy
they
here.
said that, yeah, it did help. So thank you. And it does take a lot of time to register your spending data against your budget forecast to make sure keeping on track, you not overspend. So, but
Correct. It takes time. Don't feel like you're going to, jump off this meeting, jump off tonight and be like, yeah, I'm across it. You might find you've forgotten about, an expense that pops out of your, a direct debit like next week. You're like, oh, I forgot about that. Take the next couple of weeks. We're at the start of the month, actually. Use May as a really good starting point for the month. Have a look what you spend over the month, or April as well. Sorry, look at April, and then you can plan for May, and then so on and so forth.
another great question, which yeah, we often hear this one is, Do you have any suggestions as to how we should calculate how much we should have in an emergency fund, especially with emergency medical fees popping out of nowhere?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. I think to keep it simple, probably about that 10-20% mark. If it's 500 to $1,000, you can save that, or say $1,000 or something, you can save that over a good couple of, probably even couple of months easy. But without actually seeing, your what you get paid, it's going to be very different for different people. So there's no exact magic rule around it, but if you think it's going to be around $1,000, plan ahead. Okay, if I'm putting away $100, if I can, a week, that's going to take me 10 weeks. Um, so if you know, so that's almost like a 3-month period. That might help. Yeah. I wish there
We
was
we
a
have this
magic rule.
we have this tool on the website that has where you can pop in all of your symptoms and then categorize them in order of what's impacting you the most, or what are some of the upcoming decisions you might have to make in terms of your health as well, and categorizing them in terms of urgent to non-urgent, and then allocating what type of health professional you would need, could might
Wonderful. I wish I
help to
had
kind
that.
of, yeah, it might help
That's
to
amazing.
map it out a little bit better. And then it's just a little worksheet you can do, and it's also in the Managendo program. But then you can go through it and look at, okay, well, if pelvic pain is my biggest issue, so pelvic health physio can help with that. Talking through, well, what would that look like? How much would that cost? Like Alyse said, call up ahead of time. And that might be your emergency bucket for that component. But there might be a couple of other priority things that you need, but just to give you an idea of what or how that might look. And for me personally, I have done acupuncture for a really long time, and for me, I'm like, they call me first responder because my body responds so well to it. But for me to be able to have that, I need to go every week, and that can be
Yeah.
$120 every week. And so I go through cycles of doing acupuncture and not. And so I have a fund that if I do go into a flare, I have a bucket that if I do go into a flare, I've got that there ready. And so I think that emergency bucket will look different for so many people,
For
like you've
everyone.
said, Alyse. So try and work out what that would be for you. And it may be a flare bucket. Yeah, it might be an
Yeah,
emergency flare
bucket.
bucket.
I love
Yeah.
that. No, that's perfect. Yeah, I'm the same with dry needling. A little bit different to acupuncture. With the pain specialist I was seeing, that was a very expensive time, but I sat the money aside for it because it's
Mm.
not. It was a regular thing, but only for a certain amount of time. Because again, I worked out I was spending quite a lot, and it wasn't sustainable. So as much as I'm still doing the other things, which I know my body needs, the dry needling, just like the acupuncture, can be something that you're like, I'm treating myself with this. I'll have a bucket for that. Have a bit of a savings plan for that, and that I hope will help too. Yeah, it's always thinking ahead. Cool. Well, I mean, that sort of leads me on to sort of the last part. So I'm going to wrap this one up for everybody. I really do hope there was at least one tip or trick in there that you can take with you off tonight. And yeah, we'll have this shared where we need to have it shared. But what's next? Just give it a go. If you didn't do it tonight and you were like, oh my God, I'm too tired, or oh my gosh, I can't do it right now. Absolutely fine, but give it a go. Have a think about it. It shouldn't take you long to jot down stuff. Setting bigger goals. We talked about setting aside stuff just then for health, of course. That is one of my most important, categories, saving buckets, myself. But you can start thinking about other things as well once you've got a little bit of traction. Maybe I'll treat myself and go away to a retreat for like 3 days or something. I did that recently where I set aside some money, and I went for a full spa day. They looked after me the whole day, and it was the best thing I did. And I felt incredible afterwards. And again, I didn't feel bad because I had the money there that I put aside, and it was on me. So it was a really good feeling. Working on an emergency fund, again, there's different rules and ways of thinking about an emergency fund. Can be as small as, yes, wanting to be for health, and different specialist appointments. If it's something bigger than that, like loss of job. I know I really, not that I struggled, but when I was young, I took a lot of time off because my health was really bad. And there was chat of, well, hey, this is a full-time job. And if you're not here full time, we need to think about what we're going to do. So that was really tough. But having funds of just in case you need to take a long period of time off, even for surgeries, that's a couple of weeks. Um, Getting back to that, celebrate. Once you do that, you can share it with friends or family. They are going to be your biggest motivator. My mum is my biggest cheerleader, so is my sister. And I've got another girlfriend that has PCOS, and her and I mean, we're at the Mater Hospital here in Brisbane literally every week, almost at the moment between us both. But she's my biggest cheerleader and I'm hers. So definitely feel good about sharing that. Um, and one thing, as a reminder, I did say it earlier, don't compare. Feel really proud for where you are right now. That's something we tend to forget, is being grateful and congratulating ourselves, how far we've really gotten. Every day is a new day. And one day I'll wake up, I can't get out of bed, and the next day I'm like, oh, I'm back, I'm alive, and there's no brain fog. Most of the time I go to my kitchen, which is right behind me, and I forget what I'm doing. But I'm still very grateful for my cheerleaders, for absolutely for QENDO. Oh my gosh. Not biased because, I'm with these lovely ladies often, but it has been a game changer. So use all the tools. There are so many resources, so many tools. This Manage Endo program is a massive game. I just got goosebumps. A massive game changer. And the team and volunteers are doing some great stuff. So don't forget to pat yourself on the back. Don't forget. Other than that, guys, if there's no other questions, that sort of wraps me up on time. Did well.
Thank you so much, Alyse. You did, and thank you for inserting so much human into your chat and in such a topic like numbers.
You know,
I don't know about the people here, but actually really enjoyed it and learned so much, and I'm sure people have as well. And thank you for those who attended. We hope you learned something, and for sharing and contributing. And money can be a
yes.
really vulnerable thing to talk about. It's not often spoken about, so thank you for participating. We will wrap up this webinar and also post it on our Manage Endo website and program so people can listen back to it or share it with other people. I know I'm sitting here thinking all of the people that I would have loved to have them understand this more from the conversations. And so, yes, there's always room to grow. So we wish you all a wonderful evening, everyone. And thank you. We'll see you next time.
Much. Thank you, ladies.